Somewhere in Rome right now, someone is gluing a lock shut. Not breaking it, not stealing anything, just gluing it, carefully, deliberately, so that when you arrive at your Airbnb tonight with your suitcase and your confirmation email and your excitement about finally being in the city you've dreamed about, the door doesn't open. They leave a note, in Italian, and a small green hat like Robin Hood. The note says, "We are rebelling." This is Rome in 2026, and the people who live here have decided quietly, systematically, and with complete seriousness that they have had enough of you. Not you personally, but the idea of you, the tourist, the visitor, the person who comes for 4 days, takes the photos, eats the pasta, and leaves while they stay behind and watch their city slowly become a place they can no longer afford to live in. This video is not about scams. It is not about hidden fees. It is about something much harder to talk about. It is about what happens when a city, one of the most visited, most loved, most romanticized cities in all of human history, finally breaks. Let me give you a number. 32 million. That is how many people visited Rome in 2025 alone. 32 million visitors in a city where fewer than 3 million people actually live. Think about what that means in practice. For every one person trying to go about their day, get to work, pick up their kids, buy groceries, just exist in their own neighborhood, there are roughly 10 strangers standing in the middle of the pavement, phone raised, trying to get the right angle. The Trevi fountain, you know the image, moonlit, beautiful. A single coin arsing through the air into the water. What you don't see in that image is the 400 people pressed against you from every direction, the smell, the noise, the security barriers that now exist, because without them the crowd literally falls into the water. You cannot stand still at the Trevi fountain in peak season. You are physically moved by the pressure of the crowd behind you. The Colosseum, one of the most extraordinary structures ever built by human hands, now requires a timed entry ticket booked weeks or months in advance. Show up without one and you are turned away. Doesn't matter if you flew 6 hours to get there. And while all of this is happening, while the tourists flow through like a river that never stops, the people who were born here, who grew up here, who call this place home, are being quietly pushed out. Not asked to leave, just priced out, one Airbnb listing at a time. Here is where it gets extraordinary. In the Trastevere district of Rome, one of the oldest, most beautiful neighborhoods in the entire city, a group of anonymous activists has been systematically targeting Airbnb properties. They call themselves inspired by Robin Hood. They glued shut 80 Airbnb lockboxes in a single night. They removed key safes from walls outside holiday rentals near the Circus Maximus. They left behind green Robin Hood hats and handwritten notes that said, "We have removed these boxes to denounce the sellout of this city to short-stay holidays, which leave the people who live here out on the streets." And they published instructions online for other residents to do the same. This is not fringe. This is not a few angry people. In Florence, where nearly a third of all flats in the city center are now listed on Airbnb, protesters covered buildings with stickers that said, "Let's save Florence so we can live in it." In Milan, a campaign group led demonstrations targeting key safes across the city with their slogan, "This city is not a hotel." In Venice, residents organized a water parade of boats directly against incoming cruise ships. Across Spain, in Barcelona, Malaga, the Canary Islands, water pistol attacks on tourists sitting at outdoor cafes. Signs that said, "Tourists, go home. Your luxury is our misery." This is not one city having a bad season. This is an entire continent of people who live in the places you most want to visit, collectively saying, something has to change. And in 2026, nobody in power is moving fast enough to stop it. I want you to understand the mechanics of this, because it is not complicated, it is just uncomfortable. In Rome alone, 25,000 properties are listed on Airbnb. 14,000 of them, 56%, are concentrated in the city center. Every single one of those properties was, at some point, a home. An apartment where someone lived, paid rent, had neighbors, was part of a neighborhood. When a landlord discovers they can make 3 times more money listing a flat on Airbnb than renting it to a local family, the math is simple. The local family gets a notice. The flat gets a ring light and the welcome basket. And the neighborhood loses one more person who actually belongs there. Multiply that by 25,000 in Rome alone. Then add Florence, then Milan, then Venice, then Barcelona, then Lisbon. What you get is not a tourism boom. What you get is the systematic hollowing out of living cities, turning them, block by block, into theme parks that happen to have ancient ruins. The people being displaced are not statistics. They are teachers, nurses, the woman who ran the bakery on the corner for 30 years. The family that has lived in that building since before any tourists ever heard of their neighborhood. They are the people who made these places worth visiting in the first place. And they are leaving, because they have no choice. That is what is actually happening in Rome in 2026. Underneath the gelato and the golden hour photos and the coins in the fountain. And then on top of everything came the Jubilee, the Catholic Church's holy year. A once-in-a-generation religious event centered on Rome, and the Vatican projected 32 million visitors for the year. 32 million, to a city already at its absolute limit, roads closed, construction everywhere. Entire districts reorganized for an event that brought pilgrims from every corner of the earth, converging on a city that was already, by any measure, full. The infrastructure of Rome, built in fragments across 28 centuries, was not designed for this. The water system, the roads, the public transport, all of it operating under a pressure that even the city's own officials described as unprecedented, and the activists noticed. One protest note left outside a Rome Airbnb during this period said, "This is only the first action we take against your Jubilee of the rich, not against the pilgrims, not against faith. Against a system that turns even the most sacred events into a mechanism for extracting money from a city, while the people who live in it watch their rents double and their neighbors disappear." That sentence, "the Jubilee of the rich," is the most precise summary of what Rome is going through that I have ever read. And somebody wrote it on a piece of paper and left it on a doorstep at 3 in the morning. That tells you everything. Here is the question I kept coming back to while putting this together. Does knowing this change anything? Should it? You didn't cause this crisis. You didn't invent Airbnb. You didn't set the housing policies that allowed 25,000 flats to be pulled off the residential market. But you are, if you visit part of the system that keeps it running. And I think that matters, not in a guilt trip way, in a practical, real way. Because here is what I genuinely believe. The way most people visit Rome right now is not only bad for the city, it is also, if you're being honest, a worse experience than the alternative. Standing shoulder to shoulder at the Trevi fountain at 2 in the afternoon is not a meaningful experience. It is a checkbox, an item crossed off a list. But showing up to Rome on a Tuesday in November, staying in a hotel, not an Airbnb that displaced a family in a neighborhood that still has actual residents, eating at the place with no English menu because the tourists never found it, walking a street where you are the only foreigner in sight. That Rome, the one that still barely exists between the cracks of the tourism machine, is more extraordinary than any postcard version ever captured. It just requires you to stop following the crowd, which, if you think about it, is exactly what the locals have been trying to tell you this whole time. Rome has been here for 28 centuries. It survived the fall of an empire, multiple plagues, 2 world wars. It will survive the tourist boom of 2026. But the question, the one that nobody in the travel industry wants to ask out loud, is whether the thing that made Rome worth surviving for will still be there when the dust settles. The neighborhoods, the people, the actual living texture of a city that is not a museum, not yet, but is moving closer to becoming one every single season. The Robin Hood protesters in Trastevere are not heroes and they are not villains. They are just people who love a place and are watching it disappear. I think most of us understand that feeling. I'm TK, this is The Hidden Route. If this video made you think differently about where you travel and how that is exactly what it was supposed to do, subscribe. Because the next place we're going, it will surprise you even more.